Mike Pompeo, your question. There was a Wichita Eagle article highlighting a Washington, D.C. fundraiser for you that was attended by lobbyists. Will the lobbyists you receive money from have any influence with your voting in Congress? And how will we know?
I appreciate the chance to answer that question. The support I've gotten from all across the 4th District of Kansas and all across the country is because they think I've got the right message. You know, I've got over 4 times as many Kansas contributors, folks from right here. By the way, I heard you all tonight at the break. Thank you very much. I've got 4 times as many Kansas contributors as the combined set of folks standing before you here tonight. I am proud of that. Those are folks who gave me $5, $10, $100, whatever they could afford to support my campaign. I don't have the wealth to do this on my own. I have had to go out and tell people about my message, why I'd be a really good congressman, and convince them to help me raise the funds to communicate that message even more broadly. And as for some of the others, I had an opponent run a full-page ad talking about he hadn't taken any PAC money. Well, I have taken money from PACs, and let me tell you just a little bit about them. But let me tell you a little bit about the process first, too. That opponent who said that worked really hard to get that PAC money, he just didn't get it. He was in the interview room. The implication when they say they haven't taken PAC money is that they have shunned it, but in fact, they were the ones that were rejected from these PACs. Let's talk about who they are. I'm a pro-life candidate. I care deeply about that issue. And the Kansans for Life PAC, folks like you here tonight, have chosen me. There are three candidates who assert that they are pro-life, and Kansans for Life, the premier Kansas organization that cares deeply about that issue, vetted each of us, interviewed 3 of us, and said that Mike Pompeo would be their leader on that issue. Let me give you another good example. The Club for Growth. The Club for Growth is a national organization, the Club for Growth PAC. It's a free market. It's the good housekeeping seal of approval for folks who just want to go shrink the federal government. And 2 of us interviewed with them and sought that support. And they chose me. They have chosen 11 candidates out of the 400 candidates in the country to go to Washington and shrink the federal government. They selected me. Folks like Jim DeMint, Marco Rubio.
I'm going to have to cut you off.
Thank you.
But a 30-second rebuttal on that if you want it. Does anybody want it?
Let me answer the question. Yes. Yes, PAC money will affect your decision. Yes, PAC money will affect the decision to bring the earmarks home and bring the bacon home. Yes, it will. And it's been happening for decades. And that's one of the problems we're running into, folks. People get PAC money. People get PAC money because they want favors. They want favors for themselves and their constituents. And they know they're going to get them.
Any other takers on that one? We will move on. All right. It's time for Jim Anderson to begin. This question is on spending and debt. From the national debt to our private accounts, we're a nation that owes a lot of money. Many believe those who do not handle personal finances well are not qualified to handle our tax dollars either. Has the recession changed your view of personal and/or public spending on credit?
Well, it has for years. You know, we in our home, we balance our budget. The federal government should balance their budget as well. I mean, the Treasury is empty, folks. We're broke. There's no money left. The spending habits of the citizens in this country have to change. They certainly do, but the spending habits of the United States government must change. They must change. And that begins, ladies and gentlemen, with an overhaul, again, I'm going to say it again, of the tax system. It has to happen. That's one of the reasons why we are broke in this country. I'm very concerned about the debt levels. I mean, the number 1 country who we owe debt to is China. How do you fix that? Overhaul our tax system, folks.
Schodorf?
Personally, yes. I've been trying to save money and pay off bills and pay off credit cards and pay off my house. And save. It's very difficult because we get in this pattern of spending or thinking that or maybe we start earlier buying things and then we're a little sorry after that. And I think that's the federal government too, because they don't have to balance their budget. The state of Kansas does have to balance the budget. We cut $1 billion over the last 2 years in the budget. But what we do have to have is a balanced budget amendment. A balanced budget is imperative for the federal government. And we need to start cutting back. It's very difficult. I supported a commission, a bipartisan commission, to try to come up with ways to cut and to cut the deficit. So that's what I would suggest too. And I had something else that I wanted to say and I forgot it, so I will just...
Good, because your time's up. Perfect timing. Sometimes Alzheimer's kicks in right at the right time. No, I'm kidding. I know Alzheimer's is horrible. But so is my brain at 40. Okay, I'm 46. All right.
All right. Well, thanks. Look, the recession that we're in is very difficult. I've been around the 4th District for 15 months now, talking to folks, and these are challenging times for folks who have lost their jobs. And this is a problem not of the private market failure, but of the government failure. We know this. The problems we have here in Kansas today have been caused in large part by bad government decision-making. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, those are government agencies that drove a housing market that was irrational, and it's had repercussions all across the country. And so now we have to tighten our belts. If you go to a small-town banker, a community bank right here in the 4th District of Kansas, you'll find today they're in a very difficult position. The regulators tell them they want them to loan, but they behave differently. And so when you see government act as if it wants jobs created, but behave radically differently, we know where the problem is. The problem's in Washington, D.C. and Topeka. It's not here. And so we've got to think about the way we do the Federal Reserve. We've got to think about the way we do government-sponsored enterprises. My answer on that would be don't. Thank you.
All right. That's Rick Hartman.
Well, for my 6 grandsons, the first thing we need to do is do something about $13 trillion worth of debt. We can no longer spend our way to prosperity. We can no longer stand around and think that more money is going to solve the problems. We have tried it, it has failed. We've had stimulus packages, we've had cars and clunkers, and we've had sundry packages, none of which have worked but cost jobs and created more debt for you and me to pay back, and especially our grandchildren. We need to shrink the size of government. There's hundreds of billions of dollars to be saved if we would shrink the size of government. We need to look at the fair tax, which is a consumption tax, to replace a worn out and used up system of collecting money and the wasteful spending habits Washington has today. We can survive this. We're going to have to stop. The majority, 40 to 45% of our national debt is held by China. And as I've said for many months throughout the 4th District, I suggest you stop at your local airport and get a Rosetta Stone tape and learn China, because that's what it's going to take for you to survive in the new world we're going to be facing very shortly. So let's consider size of government, cutting it back, and quit